This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge. Everyone, welcome to this week's pod. This is a show for the week of October 2nd, 2023, and it's now officially spooky season. So, Phil, does spooky season start for you in October, or are you one of those that start decorating like Disney in August?
So usually I wait until October. I'm kind of like one of those until it gets kind of cold and the kids have been back in school for a while. We were at the mall and they had a Spirit Halloween there a couple of weeks ago. And so, or maybe just a week or so ago, but we got some Halloween stuff and I put out a new Haunted Mansion themed doormat and stuff like that. So we haven't gotten everything up yet, but I did put a few things out a little early this year.
So I typically decorate for for Christmas. My wife decorates for Halloween, and she just started putting up all of her pumpkins and foliage and everything else like that. So now I know it's like officially like fall season, even though it was like 84 degrees outside. So fall stuff and heat reminded me of Disney World. So that's what I was
exactly.
There
you go.
That's what I was thinking about this week. But I've been running around a lot in my personal life. So I've been driving all over Kingdom Come. And I haven't had a lot of time to kind of get my Disney kick this week. But I did see one thing on the forums about the WDW Magic forums about some potential evening entertainment updates, Phil. And I know you were talking about this in Discord. Yeah. What's going on with that? Because I didn't have a chance to follow up with that.
So it's definitely a rumor. And it's one of those things where the moderator for WDW Magic kind of planted this thing. He has some inside information and it got everyone talking and stressing out. Because basically somebody, and I'm not going to read the whole quote, was basically here like, would they ever update Happily Ever After if like Luminous goes over really well and they kind of like they figured out the magic of kind of finding that happy medium between say Illuminations and Harmonious. And then, but they would never really update, they would never really do that after they just brought it back. Right. And then the WDW Magic moderator goes, there are some surprising decisions coming. And everyone latched onto the word surprising. Like, so what could that possibly be? And everyone's like, good surprising or bad surprising? Like, what does this mean? So lots of speculation. He did actually just today updated that it should be happening or we'll hear about it by the end of this year. So it is something coming. But what are your thoughts? Like, what could it be when, now he says, as far as he knows, it's not changing Happily Ever After, but what would be surprising to you for nighttime entertainment, either like changes to something that's current or adding something at the parks other than Epcot?
I remember reading this first statement. It was like towards the middle or end of last week. And then it was like you said, it was like kind of dribbling and drabbling. Yeah. It would never be Happily Ever After. They just spent all that money redoing it. It's a huge fan favorite. I don't think there's any changes coming out. So what else could there be at evening and entertainment at specifically the Magic Kingdom, right? It's like it's coming to that park. There's going to be no nighttime parade. There's too many people saying that will never happen. So I don't think it's a nighttime parade. The only thing I can think of at night would be like extending the projections in other places in the park. That's the only thing I can think of that they could add. I mean, if they're not going to do a nighttime parade, I doubt they're going to do like another type of stage show. I don't think it could be Main Street or Hub focused. I think it would have to be somewhere else in the park. Is that where you're thinking with this?
Not necessarily. I was thinking more, but that's a good idea. I mean, could they do stuff more further around the park, whether it's a full show or something, but something to entertain people outside of the hub at the night? That would be interesting. There's a lot of chatter that maybe it's bringing back the Once Upon a Time projection show that happened before the fireworks originally. The other thing I was wondering was if it could be more like they're going to do things more seasonally, like change up the show more often or have like holiday elements added to it or something like that, where it's more like you kind of see that more at Disneyland where like they don't keep the same show for like 10 years. There's kind of like constantly changing things. Could it be something like that? But I like your idea of maybe having projections more out there. I don't know. I keep latching onto the word surprising, which makes me think that's not
It's different, right?
like different and maybe not great.
Okay, so I mean, let's put out there. If you didn't know, the WDW Magic administrator, he gets information. He's just not a guy that runs a forum, right? So he's connected somewhere, and he has people feeding him things. Two, there's two key words here. I don't know if this is him interpreting something or he's using these words purposefully, but you have the word evening in there and surprising. So those are two key things that make my brain start spinning. Now, what do you think the word evening implies? Do you think it implies the time of day or the levels of light? Like, is this something that has to be dark out so it changes depending on the sunset, or is it like every day at 8 p.m. or something, whatever?
Right, that's true.
Time. So, where are you leaning to on that?
I mean, it was in a response to about the nighttime spectaculars type show, so I was thinking something after dark. But.
Okay, so we have to have dark, and it has to be surprising. So if like they made a seasonal changes to Happily Ever After or added a projection before or after the main show, is that surprising to you? That's not surprising to me. That's just like that's more cool stuff that they could do.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, that's great. I mean, why wouldn't you add more projections to whatever? So to me, like the word surprising and that he's being so coy about it. And like, if it was just like more projections, I don't think he would bring it up, be like, that's interesting. Things are changing. You'd be surprised. Like projections is like kind of adding another flavor of Dole Whip. Like that's interesting and kind of cool. I hope people like it, but that's not surprising that they're adding like a new flavor of Dole Whip. Right. So surprising to me means a major change or a major addition that significantly or actually moderately to significantly modifies your behavior at the park, right? This is not just something you see in passing and be like, okay, that's cool, you move on, or something that you don't even care about, you might not see. So like to put it in the frame of reference of Happily Ever After, which is a all-time favorite show that's big, that he was teasing out that might change, which freaked a lot of people out.
Right.
So to me, it's something that's modifying guest behavior. And the only thing that's surprising would be attempting to expand Happily Ever After throughout the park so they can get rid of that congestion thing. That's probably one of the major complaints Disney gets. That's the only thing I can think of. If you combine time of day or light levels, so it's nighttime, and the surprising keyword meaning a bigger change, can you think of anything else that kind of fits those buckets?
No, like that's what I was saying. The only other thing I could think of is something that's changing up the show or making that it's not performed every night or there's like different versions of it or something like that. But not really sure what else it could be. I am wondering though now when you mention about like having projections elsewhere or something like that. I mean, maybe it's just coincidence, but they did add new projection mapping into Muppets Vision 3D, which seemed like such a random addition. Like, why modify that show at this point after all these years?
Right.
So I don't know. Maybe it's just coincidence, but it's maybe making me think, will they go back to other things and add projection mapping as other elements? And maybe that's what this could be as well. If they're looking at projection mapping as this is something we can add other places, that's not a huge expense, but it'll kind of bring new life to things.
Are we or bloggers out there keeping an eye on like the roof line of like Frontierland or Fantasyland behind the castle and like looking for those mappers to like that are being mounted and placed?
Oh, right.
That's
true.
Would you even notice them? Because I don't even know where they are on Main Street. I mean, they're in the windows or up above behind something.
I happened to see some just when we were there last time because I think it was more for the Halloween fireworks we were looking at because we were on Main Street for them. Yep. And we could like, just at that angle we had, I could see, we were watching the wall and you could see where the projection was coming out. But yeah, it's just coming out some of the windows or whatever. During the day, it's hard to spot them unless you know they're there.
So that would be my only line of thought, right? Because the only thing that I could think of that other than adding a new section of Magic Kingdom, a major change would be decongesting Main Street in the hub. And because A, no one likes that. B, it I don't think it's safe, right? In the post-pandemic world, your crowd pushed in, people trying to get out. And I don't think there's enough egress for.
Do you think just to leave? Running it twice a day would be surprising to try to spread the crowds?
No, because they did that last summer, didn't they?
Yeah. At one point, they were doing it, right?
Yeah, I mean, like to me, that's not surprising running it twice. I mean, I think it'd be good, but you can't. That would to me that wouldn't be surprising because you could only do that during the winter, right? When you have enough dark hours. And I don't think keeping the park open longer, they're going to do that for the general public because they're going to give that to like deluxe guests at resorts. So I don't.
That'd
think,
be interesting if they announced that for the parks that whenever deluxe evening hours are, they run like an extra fireworks show just for deluxe guests or something.
I don't think they're wasting money on just deluxe guests. They already got their money from their hotel. But I mean, this is all painted in the world of entertainment, right?
Yeah.
So maybe I don't even think they would have extra cavalcades. I don't think it's a parade. I mean, I think it's either parade or expanding the fireworks show. That's it. What other kind of entertainment can you put in Magic Kingdom?
Yeah, the only other thing I'm thinking of is like how they do the stage show. Like at the Halloween party, they have the stage show a couple of times, but they do it after the fireworks and before the fireworks. So maybe they could do, because I do think something to keep people in the park after the fireworks. So you don't have 85% of the people trying to leave the park at the same time.
What if it's as simple as they're adding a stage show to Happily Ever After?
Oh yeah, maybe.
Right. It's just we're adding more to that awesome show. They wanted to add to it, and maybe it takes place after, so therefore it keeps the people in the hub there close. But you know what? You probably wouldn't want to do that because now more people are going to be incentivized for cramming into the hub.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe because it's couched in the Happily Ever After show. Maybe that's a hint. So it's in addition to Happily Ever After, and it's adding to it because it's entertainment. So no parade, but maybe a stage show or expanding it around the parks.
Yeah.
Those are probably totally wrong on all of this stuff.
Yeah,
but
it's got me intrigued though, and I guess that was the point of the little post. And it probably won't be anything. We're probably all building it up way bigger than it is. But I don't know. Nighttime entertainment is such a key part of a day at any of the Disney parks, but especially Magic Kingdom. That any kind of tweaks, especially if it's something potentially positive, is going to get a lot of attention. So.
I'm purposely curbing my enthusiasm. Not to quote a show, but like I'm purposely downplaying this in my head. Like what is like could be surprising, but like not crazy and like not as expensive as a parade. Because parade would be the ultimate like, yes, we're getting a nighttime parade finally. And I don't too many people in the know or
it'll probably be something like, oh, we're adding a Genie Plus or individual Lightning Lane area that you can buy to like watch or something like that.
Well, no, they're already getting money from those dessert park pre-shows and stuff like that. So not to kind of talk about the crowds a bit better, because this is another conversation I had with my wife this week about vacation to vacation. Because right now we are like 80% sure we're going on this trip in a couple months, Christmas time. And it's kind of making me nervous planning wise, but we have a room only booked at this point.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
What I got with my travel agent discount. So we have to buy tickets separately. So I'm like, when do I buy tickets? I don't think the parks are selling out at any of those dates where I would need a reservation. So I can get tickets all the way up until the week before we go, right? But not having them is making me nervous. Anyway, that has nothing to do with what I want to talk about, but that just passed through my head. Because we were talking about the vacation and tickets came up, but then we started asking the kids, like how you ask your family, what are some of the things you want to do at Disney World? And we didn't tell them that we're going yet. This is just, because I bring up random vacation planning questions at the dinner time anyway throughout the year. This is not something weird or new to any of my children.
It's not tipping them off or anything.
No. So typically what I do is when we plan, this is just like you and your family, specifically your wife, you're always trying to cram everything. Every day has got to have a thing to it, right? And this last trip, vacation to vacation, how do we sleep in, take time off, all this other type of stuff. So basically we're going to be there for 6 full days. And we need 4 park days, 1 party day, 1 day off day, right?
Okay. So
that's kind of how my wife wanted to set it up. And so we're at the dinner table and we start asking kids, like, what are the things that we'd love to do at Disney World next time we go and all this other stuff. And the topic of character meal comes up. And we go, if you had to pick one character meal, which one would go? Everybody has their answers. And then they asked me, it's like, well, if we have a day off where we have nothing to do, we could do a character meal in the morning and then kind of do whatever we want for the rest of the day. My wife goes, "Oh, but the rest of the day would be boring because there would be nothing to do." And I was like, I thought that's what you want to do at Disney. Totally put me off guard. Like, oh, what's going on? So, I wanted to ask you as this is coming up because you just experienced this. You've had about 5 weeks since you got back, 6 weeks since you got back.
Mm-hmm.
So you've kind of digested and you're out of the depression phase of a post Disney World trip. So you have some analytical thoughts to it. How much, this is my main question, like how much is too much time off, right? Because to me, it's like a fine line of like, I'm not rushing and I'm getting my vacation into vacation, but there's a fine line where you stop relaxing and start worrying about that you're wasting time down in Florida while you're at Disney World. And what I want to know is what is your under over? So if you had to peg the tipping point, to me, it's 4 hours. What are you thinking
of just doing nothing? Yeah.
So for example, you did Animal Kingdom in the morning. You got back at 1:00. It is now 5:00, and you have no plans what to do, and you start. That panic mode comes in. Like I didn't plan enough. We got to do something, right?
Yeah.
So what is that block of time to you before you go from I'm at Disney, this is great, to like, why aren't we doing it? I could be doing this back at home, sitting around. So what is that block of time?
I mean, 4 seems pretty close because I'm trying to think like when you have that full day off, right? Like if you had nothing planned for that whole day and you're like, we'll go to the pool and like whatever, like that like I couldn't do a whole day without something planned, right? But then on the other side, it's like it's especially once you start factoring, oh, we'll go to this resort, we'll go to, like, you start factoring the transportation time, and all of a sudden, like, time gets filled up with things like that, and now you're rushing, and then you're like, oh, I planned this. I thought it would be like 5 hours later. I forgot about the 2 hours to like get from release, and now we got to hurry. And so I don't know, like, somewhere like half the day, so like 4 to 6 hours, I think you could kind of allot. But then I would need something else to do, because that's kind of what we did when we had the party day. We knew we were going to go there at 4, and it felt like we wound up having to rush a little bit just with the travel time down to Disney Springs and stuff like that. So maybe we could have just done hotel day that day.
Right.
But obviously there's still a couple hours of getting ready for the party and transportation over there.
Sure.
So even if we were just doing pool day and, lunch at the resort or something, that would probably get us to like 2:00. Something like that, 1-2 o'clock. That would probably be the max I could do without having some sort of plan.
Because I'm thinking about the way we have it. I have the trip vaguely planned out in my head, right? So we're going to get down there. Last time we drove down the day before our check-in date. So we booked like a cheap hotel somewhere near, it was, Silver Springs Resort. It's right by the Animal Kingdom.
Yep.
It was like $100 a night. It was like a whole condo. It was great. And, so we drive all the way down, we go and, goodness, I think we did Disney Springs. We came back and I just like passed out, right? This was like a waste day. Then we woke up early, parked our car at the resort, and went to the parks. And we went, off we go, off to the races. This trip, my wife doesn't want to go get it a separate. She just wants to get there and go right into Disney mode. She doesn't want to do it. So that means we're going to drive all the way down, and then we're going to use that arrival day, like a lot of people do, as it's a resort day. We're going to explore, wander around, kind of relax, and kind of ease into our the next day into the vacation. Figure that out. So now in smack dab in the middle of the trip, we're going to have a day off. And I'm like, okay, we could do that. And the only other time I've ever done that was our first trip as a family back in 2015. We were there for a full 6 days. We only had 3 park days, and we had 2 off days, right? And this is when my sister did all the planning, and I was a complete novice at family Disney planning. So I remember that we kind of woke up, meandered around. We went to the pool in the morning, and then right around lunchtime, my sister and her family and my mother went to like Disney Springs, and they went to the boardwalk, and they did all this other stuff. But they wanted it like as a family unit because they hadn't seen my mom in a bunch of years, blah, 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 that type of thing. Well, that's fine. And we're sitting at the pool, and we're like, now what do we do? We've been swimming for 3 hours, had lunch, and we went back to our room at Old Key West. And now the kids are just watching TV and playing with toys. I'm like, we could be doing this at home. Why are we, So I don't want to replicate that day because that was a very frustrating day for us. And I'm thinking, okay, we have a full day on normal vacation. So we wake up maybe at, I like to say, let's sleep into like 8:39. We're not getting up 8:39. The kids are going to be up at like 7 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning. We're going to be going. I'm going to walk and get breakfast and some bagels or whatever's available and coffee, come back. And all of a sudden it's like 9:30, 10. Like, okay, let's go to the pool. And then we grab lunch. And then it's like, okay, we have the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And then it's like, all right, well, my wife wants to do the T-Rex restaurant at Disney Springs. I'm like, that's a waste of time. But okay, so we do Disney Springs. But you're not going to Disney Springs for dinner, and you're not starting that at like 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon where you're going to be there through like 8, right?
Yeah.
So what do you do for that window of time? To me, that's just like, that gives me too much nervous energy. I'd rather get an extra park ticket, spend the $400 for my family to get an extra park ticket and do like Animal Kingdom in the morning, come back at noon, and then get ready for Disney Springs in the evening. But maybe I'm packing too much. I don't know. I'm kind of.
I do think
right now,
yeah. No, but I do think for those full days off. I mean, some people can do it. Some people can just go and sit by the pool all day and they're happy. But
not with 3 kids.
Yeah, it's a lot harder with three kids. But I think you do have to have something planned. Now, I don't know if it needs to be as much as a park. There are other things to do there.
Sure.
You could do miniature golf. You could do bowling. You could do like you could do some resort hopping. There's definitely things you could do. You could plan there's things you can get online for like scavenger hunt type things where you go around different resorts. I do think you need to have some sort of like, okay, even if it's 1 or 2 ideas, like, okay, this is what we can do when we got like 4 hours to kill between, when we're tired of the pool, but it's not dinner time yet.
See, I could totally spend the whole day at the resort and do nothing if it was just my wife and I, right?
Right.
That day looks like we do sleep into like 8 or 9. Maybe my wife sleeps a little bit later. I don't know. Or I wake up earlier. I'm just putting on resort TV and just like chilling and, relaxing. Then we meander, get some breakfast. And then I'll sit at the Banana Cabana for like the next 7 hours and just like be at a Disney resort. Because that's my happy place, is like resort music going around. My wife has poo-pooed the idea, but I wanted to buy Alexas for like all the hallways and all the rooms to just pipe in resort music like throughout the whole house and be like, this was my dream. But everybody mocks me for it. But with 3 kids, you can't, right? You got to be constantly entertained. The pool only does so much, and I feel guilty about just shoving the kids in the pool and then going away. Even though like the Disney lifeguards are awesome and they're all very good swimmers, I'd have to be there watching them, right? Or I get super nervous.
Yeah.
So again, even I can't do more than 3 or 4 hours at the pool because then it's just like you're in the sun too long. Then and it's just too much. So anyway, I think to me the tipping point is 4 hours, and every time you have anytime you had an hour, 5 hours of no plans at all, it makes me nervous. And the only other time is you've done 8 hours of the parks, you get back to the resort at like 5 or 6, and you just sit by the pool until like 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
That to me, that's just you gotta finish the day.
I was gonna say you could almost split up the day a little bit, right? If you have that full day off where you could have the breakfast, do a little pool time, think about something for lunch, then maybe you do something for a few hours, do an early dinner or something like that, then you come back and do some more pool time, something like that. You can definitely split it up like that, but yeah,
I think so.
You need some activity, even if it's just like nothing major, but you need something to kind of anchor the day a little bit that we could fill up this time with.
Tell me you share the same fear where you go like, I am definitely, because we've been talking about vacation for 4 years now.
Yeah.
That, okay, this is the trip. I'm planning the vacation finally. And you're going to do it. But then as you get close to it, you get nervous. Like, I can add this. You get add on.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's
right.
I've
witnessed you doing it.
I mean, we added the party that day. That was supposed to be a totally day off. And then we added the party.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely.
No, so I'm curious to see how that kind of evolves.
That's why you need to have something that you book that day for a couple hours that prevents you from like, okay, well now we can't do a park day, right? I booked miniature golf or whatever.
Yeah, well, I'd cancel miniature golf if I could convince my wife to go to another park for that day. Another question that I asked my kids, after the character meals and all the other stuff is, we were planning to go for 4 park days. One each park, similar to your trip, with a party day involved. And I wasn't going to bring up the party. So I asked, open-ended question, if we go to each one of the parks, which 2 parks would you choose to do a second day, right? And I'm not bringing up hoppers and everything else like that. I'm keeping it simple. And some of the answers really surprised me. My son, who went first, he said Animal Kingdom. So all you Animal Kingdom people out there, I am not brainwashing my children when I was like, oh, Sawyer said Animal Kingdom. You must be the only person in the world to select Animal Kingdom for 2 park days on a 5-day trip. And my wife laughed. But he picked Animal Kingdom because he loves Flight of Passage, right? So he's not thinking about, I got to be there for 8 hours. What else can I do? He's just like, Flight of Passage is an amazing ride. I want to do it like a second time type of thing, right?
Yeah.
And all of Pandora and all this other stuff. And he doesn't even bring up Expedition Everest, which he loves, but it was like Pandora was my jam. I want to do it more.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. And okay, so what is your second park? And I have no idea what he's going to say. And he says Hollywood Studios, because I want to be able to do the Millennium Falcon a second time. And he couldn't remember the name Millennium Falcon, which hurt my heart when in that. But he wanted to do that. But like that's his memory of that park was the intense ride of the Millennium Falcon. Like he loved that. Like he loves that over rise because it's like interactive, right? You feel like you're in that moment. So I was kind of surprised because I'm basically I want to get Animal Kingdom and Hollywood Studios done in the same day to give me more Magic Kingdom and Epcot days.
Right.
I don't know if it's your influence or not, but I've become a big Epcot fan over the last couple of years, only because I like same thing. It's like I love just the kind of old schoolness of it, and I want time for food and I want time for rides, but I want them separate.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay. And then my oldest daughter, she goes, I think she picked Magic Kingdom and she picks Epcot. I don't know why she picked Epcot. And then my family started acting goofy and I couldn't really expand upon what her answer was. So anyway, what got me thinking about this, what I thought was strange was, Disney's changed quite a bit since 2017, right? They've been adding franchises to the parks rather than expanding on stuff. So they've added Pandora, Toy Story Land, Star Wars, Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway, but I don't really count that in
it's not a land
franchises,
yeah.
right? You've got Tron and Guardians of the Galaxy, right? All IP related stuff. So Disney is constantly talking about they want to expand, they want to add IP, and I think they have people like my son in mind who are kids during this time. They identify the rides with the IP. So there's synergy, if you want to use a term here, right? There's lots of activations going on in their brains. But my point being, so right now everybody says you got to have an extra Magic Kingdom day, right? It's got a lot of rides. You can't do everything in one day unless you really try. You're there for 12 hours, that type of thing. But the 2 parks with the least amount to do, he's attracted by that IP to do it for a second time. So do you think there's going to be a warping or a change in crowd performance as the kids that are like this? So I guess kids that are, teenagers in 2017 and younger, do you think their tendencies towards the parks are going to change over the next 20 years because of this?
I think so. I mean, we definitely saw that in the attendance spike that happened when they opened up Pandora and Animal Kingdom, right? So, I mean, that whole concept of this land that immerses you in a property, and not even one that people are necessarily huge Avatar fans, but it's like this immersion into this world, definitely was a draw. Now, obviously, it helps that you also have to have amazing attractions and stuff like that. You can't just build a whatever land. But I think obviously they thought that Galaxy's Edge was going to do that, and then whatever expansion they do in Animal Kingdom or wherever else is going to do that too. So I think that's the idea is you have these must-do things that everyone might be attracted to different ones, but is going to make you like, I have to get to, that happens even now when we're like, if we're doing some of our like really short trips and we're like, oh, we'll only go to 3 parks. It's like, well, how do you pick which one you don't go to? Because everything has something that's a draw. So I think that's definitely intentional. Obviously there's still the Magic Kingdom is the Magic Kingdom. It's hard to, I will say it's become kind of less of a priority for us, but it's also at the same time, you can't imagine going down and not going to the Magic Kingdom.
We got to see the castle, right?
Yeah,
but like,
exactly.
To me, it's more of like a sociological puzzle, right? So we're spanning generations, right?
Yeah.
So nostalgia is actively being built in my kids as they go to Disney World as a child. Like it happens, right? So we talked about this in one of our expeditions like years ago about nostalgia and passing on nostalgia and all this other stuff. These kids are my kids. My son is not. he's not developing that nostalgia walking down Main Street and making a left and going towards Adventureland, right? That's not the first thing that came to his mind. His first thing came to his mind was the first time he experienced Flight of Passage, experiencing the Millennium Falcon and watching the family videos of us all screaming at each other to collect Waxium, right? And hit the buttons, right? Like, we have all these things, and that's what he remembers. That's the first thing he remembers. And we all know how nostalgia works. It's like the earlier it's shoved into your brain, the more it continues as you get older into teenage years and early 20s. And when you start your own family and all this other stuff, you're like, man, I remember when I was a kid, I rode the Millennium Falcon. I was only 7 years old, and that carries on. So Hollywood Studios has this part of memory for me, and I always want to go back once or twice when I'm always there. Like this is where it starts right now.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like an interesting question. So like, as Iger and whoever successor is, if they follow the same trajectory of adding more franchises into the parks, if they ever get Marvel rights to go build Marvel lands in the parks, is that a long term? I very much doubt that they're thinking long term, 20, 30 years in the future with an actual plan. But I think what's the word I'm looking for? A result of or an unintended consequence of shoving as much IP you can in the park creates a new fan favorite in the parks where maybe they don't care about Peter Pan or Small World. They care about being like,
yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking of was, and Chapek talked about that too, like which ones they viewed as franchises. And I think at the time he was mentioning they viewed Encanto as now a potential franchise. And, those are the types of things where if they make an Encanto area with an amazing ride that people have kind of gravitated towards this movie, or a Moana area that, that continues to be a popular movie, that, the kids coming now would be like, I remember riding that with my parents and I want to bring my kids and stuff like that. So I definitely think that's part of it, is how to create this new nostalgia for younger kids, and what are they going to latch onto? Because they're not, they're probably not watching Peter Pan and the original Snow White and stuff like the same way like they're watching Moana and stuff now. So I think it's, which one thought I had was almost makes it a little bit more puzzling why they didn't go with the classic Star Wars timeline and characters and stuff like that, because that seems to kind of bridge the generations. But I guess maybe they were trying to start with, okay, the kids that grew up with Rey and stuff like that, that's what they wanted them to be drawn to. I just don't think it
I don't think the whole sequel trilogy characters, I think they thought they was going to be bigger than they were, and that was a whole we could talk about that too.
Yeah. But I think that was the intention, right? Was this is the new franchise for the new generation. In that case, maybe it didn't work, even though it obviously the Falcon spans generations, right? Yep. So that's why that attraction kind of works. And Pandora, they've only had the 2 movies. They have more coming out, but like those were almost a generation apart, right? The first movie and the second one, and like, I think people are drawn to that as well.
And I think we want original park IP people out there. This is one of the topics I might have talked about at one point, but it's such a tired conversation. I think one of the things that people should feel good about is, for my son, the first time he went on Flight of Passage, it was an original park IP. He didn't really know the movie. He just like, there's really big blue people, and I got to ride a dragon, and it was really awesome. And like, but we went back and watched the movies, and he's kind of into it and likes them. But like, to him, that was a original IP. There was not something he was familiar with before at all before he went to the parks. And that would be the counter argument to things like, yes, we want to shove IP in there because kids are seeing it at home, then they're seeing it at the parks, and it creates memories. But there's also something to be said by a really darn cool ride, and that it gets people to come back to at that point. My question is then for you, what 2 parks are you picking for day 5, day 6, if we're going to all 4? No hoppers.
Yeah, no hoppers. Obviously, Epcot is one of them. Not just because it's my favorite, but I think it's one that warrants going there a couple times, just with all the wandering around and the food and stuff like that. Of late, I'd probably have to say Hollywood Studios as the second one. I just think there's a lot of big rides that it's hard to get on all of them, even if you have Genie Plus and stuff like that.
Sure.
And if you have Genie Plus, you're kind of just rushing from ride to ride. There is a lot of kind of fun details in that park. It has a great nighttime show that you might want to see twice. So I think, at least the stuff that my family's into, we like some of the food and beverages in there. That's the first one that comes to mind, is the second park we would do twice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on Epcot. I need to have a World Showcase Day. I think I said this last week, and the week before, and the week before. I like a day focused on World Showcase with rides are secondary, and another day where rides are the primary reason and maybe secondary, going around type of thing. And to me, it's a tie between Hollywood Studios and Magic Kingdom, right?
Yeah.
The one reason why I say Magic Kingdom is only because I want to see Happily Ever After. And I'm afraid if I go one day, I'm rolling dice if it's going to be a really crummy day to see it.
True.
Do I get pushed out? I want to be able to say, okay, well, at least I have a second day. So, like, I like to be able to, like, okay, is the hub, is it just jam-packed? Like our vacation from last year, we went on one day, and there was zero standing room whatsoever anywhere in that park. And it was kind of ruined. I mean, granted, it was Enchantment, so my night was already ruined anyway. But like the second time we went, we got some space to watch it. It was fine. That's the only. I like to have a backup day for that.
Yeah, no, that's a good thought too. Then you could even do one day where you are going to make it a priority, get there early, get your spot, whatever, and then the other day maybe you're like, oh, we'll watch it from behind the castle, or like an alternate take on it.
Yeah, and we ended up doing that, and I actually liked walking around the park with some of the pre-show music and stuff like that. I like the only other thing what I say about Hollywood Studios is to me that could be, again, no hoppers, that could be a late start day.
Yeah,
even without Genie Plus, you just kind of wander in the park and you can hit up a couple things and go see the Fantasmic at the end of the day. And that to me, I think that park has some low key, really cool shopping, more so than the Magic Kingdom with the Emporium and all this other stuff. Like, I like going into like little shops and stuff like that. It's feels like you're shopping more than just walking into a big giant like tourist trap, so to speak.
Yep.
So I'm still thinking Epcot, Magic Kingdom, but I think I could be swayed to Hollywood Studios, given the day.
Yep.
Okay, so I want to play a game, or you wanted to play a game because this one was your idea. And we always love playing good games on the DVC pod. Why don't you set it up?
So it's a little bit kind of a modified version of the game that you've been playing where you say, okay, I'm going to give you the concept of ride that you have to say where you're going to replace an existing ride with this concept. Mine is just, I'm calling it Keep, Update, or Demo. And I'm going to give you 3 attractions in a given park. And you have to decide which of these you're going to keep it as is. So like keep it as a classic ride, whatever. Which one you're going to update it. So it can be as much or as little as you want, but you're going to make some, some modifications to it that is noticeably different.
Okay, well, hold on a second. Yeah. Before we talk about update, sorry for interrupting, but when we do updating, do we mean to be updating like Great Movie Ride to Mickey Minnie's Runaway
No.
Or like updating, like just giving a nice fresh coat of paint, so to speak?
Yeah, updating it, but it's still the same concept. So you could do like even, I mean, obviously this was a downgrade, but like kind of how there's been different versions of Journey into Imagination, but it's still Journey into an Imagination, that type of thing. And then the last one is just demolish it. It's gone for good. It's something else completely different will replace it. So you're losing that IP.
I haven't looked at your options, even though you wrote them in the show notes, and I hate you already for making me have to kill an attraction. I know you're setting this up to force me to kill an attraction.
Yeah, it's almost like if you've ever played, sometimes people play the game like one must go, and like here's like 3 great options. You have to figure out which one's going to go. So
I love it.
That's definitely part of it. So for Magic Kingdom, the 3 attractions are Big Thunder Mountain, the Haunted Mansion, and the Jungle Cruise. So one of those you have to keep as is. One you could keep the theme but update it, and then one is gone. It's demolished.
I think this is interesting. I think you keep Haunted Mansion. I don't think that needs to be updated. I think it's perfect the way it is.
Yeah.
Now, between Jungle Cruise and Big Thunder Mountain, which one would I kill? Which one would I update? Well, considering that Jungle Cruise was recently updated and we saw what their vision for update is, I think I'd kill Jungle Cruise because I don't think updating it brings in anything new.
Yeah.
And I would update Big Thunder Mountain to maybe add some new effects, or am I changing? Can I change like the pathing, or is it just cosmetic?
You can change as much or as little as you want, like more than just like a new coat of paint, but like that you'll actually add, make some tweaks to it that it's different, but it could be as little or as much as you want.
If I could change it so the track goes over the water in Rivers of America, that would be kind of cool. I would dig something. The only reason why I say Jungle Cruise, and Jungle Cruise I love as an attraction, but I like the idea of it more so than the actual experience these days. Because more often than not, I get on the boat, I can't hear the skipper because the speakers are kind of broken. Or I go through and I've been waiting online too long. Or I'm disappointed because the Genie Plus didn't get me the right time. I almost like the queue better, just because if you could tell from the intro to our podcast, I really love the queue
Like the audio
right?
sounds. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't want to kill the Jungle Cruise, but out of those three, I think the easy one would have been Big Thunder Mountain, but for the sake of the park, Big Thunder Mountain eats a lot of people, so I think the Jungle Cruise has lower capacity. So we'll go with Jungle Cruise. That is a long answer, but go ahead.
No, that's what we want. That's what we want. We want the thought process behind that.
Fine. Okay. You heard it.
Okay. So from my end, I might actually agree with all your picks. I love the Jungle Cruise. I think it's amazing, but I also understand it takes up a huge amount of area, and like, what else could you do with that? And I do think sometimes thinking fondly back on it, you only remember all the good parts and the good times and the good, they're not all perfect rides. And I think losing Big Thunder would be a big thing. And I also agree, like, making some updates to it, kind of like Big Thunder version 2.0, they have a cool version of it over in Paris and stuff like that would be neat. So
you got to think the queue I think the most underrated queue, at least in Magic Kingdom, is Big Thunder Mountain.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Go up the mountain and then like down into the mine pit. It's really
and they have some interactive elements, and if you start reading the signs, there's tons of like backstory explained to it. But it's not like it's not necessary backstory to understand the ride, which is why it's great, because it's just if you care about it, it's cool. But I fully agree with that.
And by the way, I think that's what we're getting with Tiana. By the way, everybody's uproar about like all that stuff. I think that's going to be similar to that, and not thrown in your face. No, it's funny because last time we went on Jungle Cruise, I think my wife was looking at me askance, like, does this ride kind of suck, or is it just like I've been on it like 3 times this year, and it's just like, what's the point anymore? But
the other problem with Jungle Cruise, like you said, updating, like, part of what does work when it works is because it's kind of campy and old fashioned and stuff like that. Like, you can't really make a modern Jungle Cruise, you know what I mean? Like flashy with new effects and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right. For Epcot, the options are Frozen Ever After, Soarin', or Remy the Rat.
This one's interesting. I can't. I mean, you've got Remy on here. It's so new. So like updating it seems kind of weird.
I was trying to figure out which third ride to pick for Epcot, because it's either like, I don't want to put like Guardians on there, or like and Test Track we know is getting updated, and then after that it's like
what else?
Lesser rides, right? You know, I'm not going to put like The Seas with Nemo. Like, let's get rid of that or whatever. But
I'm with you on that. I think this one's super easy. Okay. I think Remy Remy is one of my favorite queue / ride experiences, just because even the queue's not like dynamic at all. I just love the music. It's nice and kind of not dark, but the vibe inside is kind of mellow. It's kind of chill. And after a bright, hot summer day, as soon as you get in there, it's just kind of relaxing. I really like it. So that's the one we keep. Obviously, you update Soarin', get rid of all the bent stuff in the video. It's an awesome ride vehicle. You can't beat it. And that was my 5-year-old daughter's favorite ride last year. Like, she went on everything but Tower of Terror, and that was her favorite ride. So you know what? I can't. We're gonna update that, make her happy. And I think you demo Frozen After on that one. I mean, demo it to force Disney to make an actual good Frozen ride from scratch and not a redo.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe you could qualify that as like a major update, but I think that's the idea, is that you get rid of that and you do something much more substantial, make the whole Frozen land like they're doing in Paris and Hong Kong and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I think that's the right call. So for Hollywood Studios, the options are Tower of Terror, Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, or Slinky Dog Dash.
So this one's kind of weird. Smuggler's Run is one of my. I like this over Rise better. I love the whole experience with this one. So I would keep this. I wouldn't want to change it. The only other thing is, it depends, because here's two different. Because I'm demoing Tower of Terror. As much as I like that ride, I can take it or leave it. But between Smuggler's Run and Slinky Dog Dash, so we're keeping one, we're updating the other. Yep. I would love to see Slinky Dog Dash be expanded and updated so it's more dynamic in the park, rather than like kind of going over people and kind of around. And I think some of the original artwork for that made it go around the land a bit more. I like that. But in reality, I don't think they would actually do that in our fantasy game here. But like more realistically, I would love to update to Smuggler's Run and kind of change the story around. So you're going against the Death Star or a Star Destroyer, or you're not just doing smuggling coaxium, which is stupid anyway. But like, I'd like to see it like Star Tours style. Like, give me some different missions every single time and let me have some fun. So I would kill Tower of Terror, update Smuggler's Run, and keep Slinky Dog Dash.
Okay. So I think in reality that's probably the right call.
Okay.
I think
but
part of me, because I love Tower of Terror, I think it's the icon of the park. I think it's
Sure.
such a well done ride. I think it's fine. It doesn't need to be changed. And then Smuggler's Run, I'm kind of with you that it doesn't need to be drastically changed, but update it, make it have more dynamic missions and things like that. And with Slinky Dog Dash, it's great, but I think more could have been done with that land. So if you kind of demoed, I mean, they're obviously not going to do it because they just built it. But if you like almost demoed Toy Story Land and started over, I think you could do something better than what's actually there. So
I don't disagree with that. But just like me saying, dude, force him to build a Frozen Land. I guess you could say demo that to force him to build a better Toy Story
Land. Yeah.
Fair enough.
So I guess that would be my call.
I never liked Tower of Terror as the icon of the park.
Yeah.
I think Hollywood Studios needs a better weenie, so to speak. But that'll never happen.
Yeah. Last is Animal Kingdom with Expedition Everest, Flight of Passage, and Kali River Rapids.
So this one could be fun, right? Like, nothing immediately jumps out at me with this. I mean, do you go and say update Expedition Everest to get the Yeti back? I mean, that's kind of like the obvious one there. What I would actually do is I would demo Flight of Passage, even though that's what gets everybody into the park.
Yeah.
I would keep Expedition Everest, and I would update Kali River Rapids so it's not a boring ride. It's more interactive. Like, maybe add some more part of the track, but make it other than just like you seeing the devastation of the land around you. I think it'd be like, because you have like, that could almost be your Indiana Jones ride. Like, you're in the jungle, it's a temple, but then it's just like, oh, this is what mankind does. Like, this is kind of boring. I want an adventure, right? That type of thing. So as much as I'd love Flight of Passage, I think it'd be more interesting to see what they could do with an updated Kali River Rapids.
Yep. So it's funny because that was going to be my like hot takes.
Was going to be the same.
You ruined it for me, because especially then my thought also was then they could use the Flight of Passage technology for like a Coco ride somewhere else or something like that.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, there's kind of that side benefit, and they could do something even cooler with Avatar. But yeah, definitely update Kali River. It was originally planned to be like twice as long and have a bunch of cool stuff. And I know like kind of the comparable version in Shanghai has cool like animatronic dragons or whatever on it. You know, you could do some cool things with it. So yeah, that was going to be like my hot take version. Obviously, the much more realistic version is they update the movie for Flight of Passage, keep Expedition Everest, and then demo Kali River and put Zootopia there or something like that. But
yeah. I think the movie for Flight of Passage has been deteriorating quite a bit.
That's one reason that's become a little bit less of a priority for us. Like, we did it last time because we just did it standby. It wasn't that bad, but like, I don't know, it's harder to like pay the ILL for that one or wait an hour for it because the movie's like, this is not as crisp as it used to be.
Exactly. All right, we're going to wrap up the show with the DVC engagement from last week. If you recall, last week I asked, in the past 10 years, Walt Disney World has expanded Skyliner, Pandora, Toy Story Land, Star Wars Galaxy Edge, all the DVC resorts and refurbs. Again, this was all in conjunction with the announcement of that they're doubling investment in parks and entertainment. So we asked the community, what do you want to see Disney World expand in similar areas? Is it lands, infrastructure, rides, and redos, or they should focus more on specific areas? What is your vision? And two people hopped in here, and I want to give credit to Mama of Six and Wheezy for dropping some very detailed answers. I thought Mama Six put down a really long answer that was really great and detailed until Wheezy started typing for like 4 hours, applying to be CEO of Walt Disney World with his response. But Mama of Six said, in Animal Kingdom, Dinoland redo, in addition to Pandora, Hollywood Studios, something to do in the Little Mermaid show building, Beauty and the Beast redo. This one was Turnfield Hotel into immersive theater dining experience. Is that what is that reference to? I missed that. Was that the Tower of Terror type of reference?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so Magic Kingdom, Villains Lambs, Tiana's Quick Service, Main Street Theater, Epcot, Cherry Tree Lanes, basically everything that people. This is basically a giant wish list of everybody that's a Parks fan is asking for. So none of those were surprises, and some more Skyliner expansions. But then Wheezy went ahead and kind of says a lot of the similar things, but he actually divvied out the $60 billion. He went a step forward, so we're going to give him plenty of credit for that. So basically, for $15 million, he would do stuff on international cruise. He didn't really care. He just wanted to give somebody some money with that. And I think he started writing million, but he really meant billion. So Disneyland gets some money and do some things. He didn't really care about Disneyland. But he's giving Disney World $27 billion. He's doing Avatar expansion. He's doing a Dinoland Central America edition and an Australia land. So he's really expanding the other side of the park in Animal Kingdom. So we really like that. Epcot, Japan gets a ride, which is really, really cool from like the original plans. So big props for that one. Hollywood Studios, Frozen Land, which we just talked about. So awesome. He's putting that in the
Animation Courtyard.
Thank you. I was going to say Artist Point, but that's definitely
not
that. Everybody's go-to is Magic Kingdom Villains Land. This is so prominent a discussion that if they do not put Villains Land in Magic Kingdom,
they've teased it so much now, and like, if they don't do it, I think people are going to riot.
Right, absolutely. So he's got $10 billion left over, thankfully. He wants to add a new moderate to the Animal Kingdom area, which I think is actually an interesting idea, especially if you can get Skyliner over there, kind of crossing over from the southern part of the property there. He wants to make the Star Cruiser into a 4-hour character dining experience, so maybe like kind of like a hoop-de-doo, which a lot of people have suggested before. I think that's
that's what Mama of Six was talking about when she said the failed hotel for Hollywood Studios.
That's right.
I think that's what she meant. Yeah.
Yes. No. Okay. So they're both on par with that.
Yep.
About 100. He's saying he wants $180 a week. He wants a return of the Magical Express, which I don't think ever is going to happen anytime soon. Plus, I don't think that's really much of an investment. That's kind of like a business venture type of thing, right? Because all the infrastructure there. More water park updates. I don't think anybody's really asking for that. Golf course updates. I'm not a golfer. Do the golf courses need updates? I don't know.
They're constantly making tweaks and update. I mean, because they make a lot of money off them because they're pricey and stuff like that. But that's kind of like regular stuff, right?
Normal golf course stuff. Like you're constantly making the greens better. And he wants the updates to the ESPN World of Sports, updates to the facilities there and stuff like that. I like it. So does anything here stand out? Like what's funny is you see after the conversation kind of died after that announcement, but it was a good solid week of people speculating, right? Because everybody likes speculating. The funny thing is nothing here. I mean, I give all the credit in the world for everybody coming up with these ideas, but these ideas are so spread out through the zeitgeist of Disney park fans that like nothing surprises me. So if Disney World execs want to come up with a plan, they just need to go to any kind of like positive reinforced social media platform that's not all just sniping and bad stuff, but like here's our to-do list. Let's order them and just go, because this is what everybody wants.
Yeah, it's a good point. You know, like everybody's, or not everybody, but it kind of feels like they've been throwing out these ideas at the last D23 events, kind of like let's see how people react to these ideas. It's like you got all these people giving you ideas. I bet if you like took 100 of them, there's probably 5 to 10 of things that people have in common that everybody wants to see, and like start there. Like,
exactly. It's the exact opposite of Kathleen Kennedy saying that there's no extra materials for Star Wars for new movies, and they didn't have anything to base off of, when he had a New York Times bestseller in Thrawn, which is just over right now. I'm kind of like, okay, we're gonna wrap
up so we can watch Ahsoka.
I want to thank everybody. I can't add anything to this list, right? We talked about it last week, what we would do. I think all these things are great. The only other thing I'd like to see is just more Skyliner stuff. I'd love the Skyliner. I'd love to see that infrastructure expanded. I'd love to see more moderate resorts, and moderate resorts that have rooms for 6. I think that's the one thing that's drastically lost in a lot of the options that are on there, and a lot of other hotels offer that in the area, especially Universal and stuff like that. So I want that. Next week, or this week, we're recording this a day late, so tomorrow this is going to come out. If you had to develop your own tour in the parks, For example, behind the scenes tour in Epcot and Living with the Land, what would you like to see? And don't come up with like a VIP tour, but in a different spot, right? I want something that either has to do with a land or a specific attraction or a specific thing that you want a tour of that will cost anywhere between $50 to $150 per person, right? So we're not thinking like, oh, we're going to charge you $10,000 to give you a tour of something silly, right? But something that's reasonable that every average guest could probably afford, and it's not like I need like to do this specifically. So no Star Cruiser type stuff or anything else like that. So this should be a fun one to go over. I already have a couple ideas that we'll talk about next week. So Phil, anything that I forgot to add today? Anything we did not talk about?
No, but maybe just a reminder of our social media accounts. Hit us up anywhere. We're on everywhere, X, Insta, Thread, Facebook, YouTube, all at the DBC Pod, and join our Discord channel, join the conversation, and let us know your ideas for any of the topics we talked about, and tell us why you would tear down Flight of Passage as well, or maybe not.
No, maybe not. Yes, tear down Flight of Passage. Hot take of the week. Put that on social media, Phil. Anyway, thank you for listening and watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Take care, everyone.